Hi, it's Jeff.
And Denise from Mousesteps.com.
And this is episode number 346.
346.
Of Mousesteps Weekly.
Sponsored by MEI Travel and Mouse Fan Travel. We have no idea when travel is going to start again in earnest, but check them out on Facebook. You can go to their site and get on the mailing list. And, you know, when it does start back up, you'll be maybe among the first to know.
Yeah, I've said before, I mean, at times like this, you really appreciate having a travel agent, especially with all these changes and so many people to contact. It's nice to be able to have someone to do that for you.
It's just, you know, I don't know when travel will start, but I'm looking forward to actually getting back, back to Disney, and I'm sure that they are as well.
So we're going to start with Prop Culture, a Disney Plus show. I guess you got to have a little preview, and I even had a little preview with you. I saw a little bit of the Muppets episode, and it looked really good.
Now, Prop Culture will be starting in 1 week. And I don't want to say starting because they are going to drop 8 episodes at one time on May 1st on Disney Plus. This, for me, is going to probably be my second favorite show on Disney Plus. After Imagineering Story. We're looking at Richard Sherman here. He plays Feed the Birds and part of it. It isn't a dry prop show. It is such a fantastic, you get to see props, but there are stories around them. And the host, Dan Lanigan, he talks to the people involved, including some of the actors in various stories, including Mary Poppins, including the original Muppet Movie, which is one of my favorite films of all time. I saw it in the theater as a child. Just so many, 8 totally different shows, and it's sort of like a road trip show. So it's like he's on the road going to various places and talking to people about the various not only the props, but just really those stories that surround them.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. I remember years ago, about 10 years ago, we were lucky to get a tour of the old prop warehouse at the Walt Disney Studios. That's when they actually had a working prop house where they would use or sometimes rent props to other studios. So it was so cool. I remember finding the Rocketeer's helmet in a box when we were just looking around there.
And here is also for Tron. So they have the Muppet Movie, Mary Poppins, Pirates, Tron, and Roger Rabbit are among the 8 episodes. And I watched most of the Muppet Movie show, which it's just a very special show. If you love a movie, again, 8 episodes, and some of the movies I don't like as much as others. Muppet Movie is very special to me.
Right.
And it really is just lovely to find out where some of the props ended up and just to hear stories about, the creation of the Muppet Movie.
And I did get a chance to see a little of this one as well. This is the Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I see Christopher Lloyd there looking at his costume that he would have wore in that film.
There's so many moments like this. I didn't watch all 8 episodes yet because I want to save some of them for later. But every time, and there's Kathleen Turner, he talks to her.
Jessica Rabbit herself.
When I was just sort of on a few of the episodes, just kind of popping through where it'd be every couple of minutes just to see what was going on. It was one amazing moment after another.
It's very true. Very true.
And I watched a little bit of this as well, and she talks about, kind of how Jessica Rabbit came about.
I think this will be very, very popular. I know when I came in and watched a little of it, I said, I want to not watch it. I want to make sure that I can really see it all on the big screen because you're watching it on the laptop. But oh boy, I think this will be a very big show.
And I'm gonna say, don't watch it all at one time. Save some of it because I think it was a little overwhelming for me to see as much as I did in one. One Muppet Movie is amazing. But then adding in a little bit of Nightmare Before Christmas and Mary Poppins and such, it started getting a little bit okay, I want to wait. I want to wait and see this maybe in a few days.
So we're looking at this little creature, this very cute guy, a porcupet that we just were sent from Disney.
Right. The porcupine is now 2 months old. Porcupet, I guess, is it's still a baby. And she is named Shelley after this Disney cast member who is a veterinary services manager who has been involved, with having her be born and everything. So I thought that was very cool. We saw a little video on the Disney Twitter feed, and I thought that was a video we were going to get, was her being surprised that they were naming her.
Yeah, but it's mainly B-roll of the Porcupet, of Shelley the Porcupet. But, she is extremely cute. I'll give you that.
Well, she's about 2 pounds now, and she's also about 2 months old, almost exactly 2 months old at this point. And she's very cute, and I love that, there's still life going on. The parks are closed. There's not a lot going on. But once you get over to Disney's Animal Kingdom, there's babies being born. There was a zebra born, and it's really nice to be able to see this stuff happening.
And what do you normally say when we see one of these cute little animals? What's
I
the
want
first?
one.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. I want one. If we had one of all the ones you wanted, we'd have our own zoo over here. But no, very cute. I wonder how big they grow to.
You know what? I'm not even sure.
I guess we'll find out.
So we're looking at Shanghai Disneyland.
Yes, in the news this week, Shanghai has been doing some testing with cast members posing as guests about social distancing and all sorts of things to get ready for a possible reopening.
Yeah, it looks like that they are reopening, and I know that we still get asked when we think that the parks here are going to reopen. We have no idea, and I think we can look to Shanghai though. It looks like they will be the first to open. They're the only ones. I'm surprised. Like Hong Kong, you would think
I think the hotel is open in Hong Kong, I believe.
I would have to look, but Hong Kong, I think they don't have as many cases anymore. So I'm hoping that they will be able to sort of do the same thing. But we can kind of look to Shanghai and see. They're working on different measures, and I guess they can kind of see if those measures work, and they can kind of transfer them over here. And there's still a lot more that needs to happen, I think, in the States before the parks can reopen. I'm hoping in a few months, maybe they can kind of start a little bit, but we'll see.
Well, I know here in Florida there is a reopening board of directors or something like that, and the Walt Disney World president is on that. So
Josh D'Amaro is, and
correct.
also the president of Universal and a whole lot of others. But again, we'll see. As soon as it's somewhat safe, at least. You know what? Without a vaccine, nothing is 100% safe. And even with a vaccine, if it isn't necessarily 100%, but it could be years. There's no way to know when a vaccine will be. So I guess at some point it will be lower risk, and maybe there'll be a treatment or something, but we'll see.
One last thing I wanted to mention, I think we're about to see Disney Springs, which I predict would be the first place to open here at Walt Disney World. Noticed. Doesn't it make sense? I mean,
no, it's what I expect, because there are restaurants open for takeaway, and that is someplace you could go and get takeout food if they were open.
But I wanted to mention one thing I noticed about China. They actually do have a couple theme parks open, and we saw a picture of one where they had a roller coaster and the guests were wearing masks, and they had every other row filled, so you would not have to sit next to anyone. So at least they're experimenting and trying these things. I don't know about being on a roller coaster with a mask. I've tried wearing a mask lately, and it gets very hot, and your glasses get fogged up if you wear glasses like me. So it's not as easy as it looks.
Well, when I go to Publix, the one time I put on my mask, but I put it a little bit over my glasses, so then my glasses got so fogged up. Every time I took a breath, fog. But then the next time I put the glasses just a little bit over them, and it wasn't quite as bad.
So we've been talking about this for a number of weeks, and we keep having to push it back, but we are finally going to talk about the Walt Disney Archives and the Bowers Museum here in California, very close to Disneyland.
It's really hard. This event I went to in early March. There had been a save the date, and I really wanted to go to see this exhibit as part of a media event here. And we have Becky Klein from the Walt Disney Archives, and then Mickey and Minnie. It's a media opening. Mm-hmm. And they opened actually to everybody on March 7th, and then they had to close on March 17th because of the COVID-19 crisis. So, they were open about 10 days only. So I feel very fortunate that I got to be part of this, but I hope they're able to open up, in the relatively near future. This is a fantastic, the Walt Disney Archives is 50 years old now, or it will be, I think, in June. And this is just a fantastic exhibit that had come from Japan. I think it was a Japan D23 Expo. It isn't all the same. Part of it is the same. And then they brought in some different items. You saw Dumbo ahead. And so you're approaching this. It's really well laid out also. It's a self-timed, or not self-timed, it's a time ticket. So it's not like you're going to necessarily have a million people in there at one time because, it's like, okay, well, you come in at 3, you come in at 4.
Oh, timed entrance, sort of like they had
Yes.
at Gaylord Ice.
Yes, like that. So it shouldn't be too crazy at any given time. But it really there's so many different items here. I mean, you've got,
Looks like Walt's office here.
right? And
Oh,
it's
from the
part
film,
of,
though.
right.
Okay.
So there are some things that are replicas. Here's a message from Dave Smith, who passed away. I think he passed away last year. He is the one who started the Walt Disney Archives. He had been a librarian. In 1970, he started the archives. Not really that long after Walt Disney died. He thought, they should get all this stuff together, which is great because otherwise I don't know where it would be.
Oh, very fortuitous. I mean, it's one of the best best company archives there is.
And I can see my finger. Like,
Well, you're just getting used to using your
I'm
new
still
iPhone
learning.
X.
Yes, I'm still learning to use it. Every now and then I put my finger over it. It's a fantastic.
Oh, not an X11,
11.
iPhone 11 Pro. I'm sorry,
And
that's what you have.
And I love it. I got one of those pop sockets, which I still don't quite understand yet, but I'm going to be using it more, when we actually are out and about using the phone. But anyway, there's so many little, there's 465 different items.
Oh, I see ticket number 1 there for Disneyland. Very nice.
And there's also Walt's badge, employee badge number 1.
And a Walt signature, it looks like, too.
And most items, I think, are real. But again, there's a handful of facsimile items, too.
Copies.
Yes, there's some. Otherwise you might not ever get to see them at all. Like here, I think this menu is a facsimile. I just went through the photos. I took like 500 photos. And
You did a great job getting all this video with the help of our other friend here, and also getting so many nice photos too.
Well, I wasn't even planning to do video. He was supposed to do video, but then he didn't take video of anything that had reflection because he doesn't want to be in the reflection. I'm like, okay, I'm going in and I will go get some more video.
I'm glad you did. This Mary Poppins stuff is fantastic. I mean, all of it's fantastic.
And then also the Jungle Cruise. But I went in first to get mostly photos. And so again, I was just kind of flipping through them so that I kind of remembered what I saw.
One of the original Fess Parker
Right,
coonskin caps.
And it really,
with the head.
Yes, I don't really like that so much, like where it looks like
Well,
a
you
raccoon.
forget back in those days in the 50s, the head was included on those hats.
Yes. You know what? I'm really glad that I went I'm glad that I went to this exhibit because it's nice to be able to share something, especially right now when it is not viewable, unfortunately. So then you have these, also these Mickey Mouse plush dolls. And I know the ones on the bottom, I think they said 1930.
I see the vintage Mickey and Minnie hand car, which my parents have one in a great condition of. So I will eventually inherit that.
Or you could, offer it for loan to the Walt Disney Archives or something, because you said it might even be in a little better shape.
Yeah. I mentioned that to Dave Smith, years ago, and he was interested. So who knows?
You know what? You never know. So anyway, we're just still looking. There's, a number of items that aren't necessarily old also that we'll be showing. But these are the different ticket books. And I've used ticket books. You've used ticket books.
And I saw Mickey there in his conductor's outfit, and there it is. There he is in the corner, and he appeared with Walt Disney when Walt opened at Disneyland.
And he was in the front of the train holding.
There, you got a better shot
Mickey.
right there.
There was my finger again, has made a cameo.
Many
appearance.
cameos.
I know, but you know what? I was doing this for quite some time, so I think I did okay with it. And I don't even remember what every little thing is. I don't think I even took pictures of every little tag, but I got a lot of them. I'm going to do an article maybe this weekend on it. I haven't even done an article because it's like time stopped. It's like, well, whenever I get to it, I get to it.
In this case, time truly did stop since they closed after only 10 days.
Like if it doesn't open for another month or two, it doesn't even matter when I post
Looked
it.
like a Frankenweenie I just saw there.
And there I am.
Maquette.
Yes, and there's Elsa. This is just, again, a fantastic exhibit. And what really surprised me, I don't know if I had heard of the Bowers Museum before. It isn't something that was on my radar at all. It is only like a 10-minute drive from Disneyland. It's like 5 miles, and sure, in traffic, probably a little bit longer. but it was so close. And it's a very nice museum. They have a patina restaurant, and when it reopens, I assume they're still going to be serving things like, I think they were serving like Walt's chili and such. We didn't eat inside there, but I would like to go back for this exhibit as long as it's still running. It's supposed to run until August 30th, and I don't know if that will be extended when they open.
Well, this is the best part as far as I'm concerned, the theme park section. And I see an alien from the great movie ride from the film Alien. And I see Rex, not DJ Rex, but the original Rex from Star Tours in the background.
And also from El Rio del
Tiempo, yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And
oh, yeah, the Mexico boat ride, the original version.
right. And I know it's a Mayan priest, and it's an attraction figure. And it's funny because I thought action figure at first. I'm like,
now
action
that's a big
figure.
action figure.
And it looks like our friend, this is probably his. So the whole exhibit is 10,000 square feet. It's actually quite large, and it's very spread out, which is really nice because more guests can enjoy, the various areas you can kind of gather around. You can see like a lot of guests could see this. What surprised me is with some of these costumes, and I'm not really that big a costume person, like Anna and Elsa there, those are costumes from Epcot, the original Anna and Elsa costumes.
And we just saw the hitchhiking ghost and some of the original gravestones. And here are a bunch of outfits. There's Dick Tracy, and I remember the old Dick Tracy show from many years ago, from the 1990, I think.
And then Julia Roberts and Pretty Woman.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't recognize all of them, but you can see like the Mary Poppins costumes
Oh,
there.
these are movie props.
Yes.
I apologize. I was thinking theme park shows.
Not all of them. They're not all, because I said Anna and Elsa cast member costumes as well.
I see.
So it's a variety of different costumes. Also, this is a traveling exhibit, so it is supposed to move on. And again, remember the whole time stop thing? I don't know if, let's say all exhibits at all museums, maybe they'll get a little bit of a lengthening so that guests can come and watch them. And there you can see Herbie.
This is from The Rocketeer, I believe.
I only saw The Rocketeer once, so probably. And then, of course, I mean, there's just so much to look at here. And this is one of my favorite areas. You've got it's like the Disney Legends Plaza
Right.
at Walt Disney Studios. You've got, handprints, which I assume are replicas from, I don't think they're bringing them in, replicas of what you can find there.
Right, and that's always nice to see. I remember that when that plaza used to have water in it before it was filled in, and now you could just walk around.
I just think this is a really fantastic exhibit. I don't remember that. Like, I've been there a number of times, but not so often. But you can see the different handprints. So I am assuming you could put your hands in them. I think these days I would not be putting my hands in
And you
them.
recognize this giant this Disney Legend Award, but there's a giant one of those right in front of Disneyland Paris, the Disneyland Paris Hotel, like huge, larger than life, which is always nice to get a picture of when we're there.
I miss Disneyland Paris. I love going there. Obviously, I say it all the time. So here is I think this is Walt Disney Archives staff here. I don't know if it included Dave Smith in this photo. It might be a more current one.
I don't see him. But
Becky.
now we're going to go down the street back to Disneyland. We are in 1998, and we're about to talk about a very short-lived but an interesting attraction, the Rocket Rods.
I only rode it once, and I saw it broken down a lot. So
that plagued the Rocket Rods,
yes,
actually.
I wanted to ride it, but it was really hard to get on at any given time at least when I was visiting.
Yeah, in those days there were no fast passes or anything like that, although they did have single rider back in the time. I think this was one of the first attractions to have single rider, and I remember I did get a chance to ride it a number of times, but it always had a huge wait, and I enjoyed riding it in the front. And you're going to ride it with me from the very front row. This was during testing that you're seeing here. My friend was able to be there while the cast members were still testing it and getting it ready. Then it opened for about a month, and then it closed for 3 or 4 months because right away it had some kind of technical problem. It's on a track that wasn't designed for things to go fast and then slow and then fast. So, we're looking at the queue right now, and the queue is interesting. That was in the old Circle Vision Theater, and there is an old let's see, I have it written down, a Mark III monorail. and you're looking at some rocket jets, and those were actual ride vehicles that they kind
Painted.
of painted them over to look futuristic.
And I really don't remember this again. I only rode once over, a little over 20 years ago. There's very little I remember about it, except that the ride it was okay. It wasn't the worst ride I've ever been on. It wasn't the best, but it was fun enough for finally getting on it.
And you're looking at some schematics of all sorts of different type of ride vehicles and futuristic things. And we mentioned the ride vehicles. There is the old people mover cars, very different from the current people mover that you have at Walt Disney World. And you saw a rocket rod go by up above. Now you're looking at the Q film. And again, I mentioned this is the former Circle Vision Theater. And you're going to actually see a little bit of America the Beautiful and also some of the timekeeper in there. There you have Walt, and Walt is talking about futuristic transportation. So, they try to tie it all together. The whole backstory of the rocket rods was the transportation of the future, which kind of came true because it's very similar to Test Track, something that opened a little bit after. And I think that's a scene from America the Beautiful.
But not that much after. Like, I've seen somebody mention it as like a first generation Test Track, but they opened very, very closely within like a year of each other, because Test Track then opened in 99, where this opened in 98.
And we mentioned the Timekeeper before, and you might remember this if you're a fan of the Timekeeper. This scene here with the race cars is from that, and I think you're going to see the Eiffel Tower eventually, and that was from the Timekeeper movie, if you remember that, also in Circle Vision.
Yeah, it was. I don't remember this at all. So I'm just seeing it here for, I don't want to say it feels like the first time. I must have seen it the one time.
Well, you were moving too. You had this queue that went around and around. It was really slow moving because the rocket rods had a tendency to stop running often.
All the time.
Yeah, so consider yourself lucky. The only time I got to go on this was for about 10 days in July of 2000, and I tried to ride it as much as I can. I didn't know it was going to be as short-lived as it was. And this is another interesting aspect. You had to go down a tunnel, so you actually took the stairs going downward, and then you walked up this circular area up inside where the ride entrance was. So it was very strange. This was in the past, this had been a backstage area, and I'm sure that's what it is now. But it was interesting how they retrofit. You did not expect to go down a tunnel and then up a spiral staircase to ride this attraction at those times.
And what is it that is now Buzz Lightyear?
It's the queue. So the Buzz Lightyear attraction is where America the Beautiful, or the Circle Vision, we'll call it the Circle Vision Theater. That's where that is right now.
Okay, so it's just interesting. I don't really remember as far as placement. Like right now, can you walk through this area that people are walking in, or is that
it's now Buzz Lightyear?
All of it.
But
is Buzz
I
Lightyear.
imagine where you are down here in this tunnel, it's probably a cast area.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, it has to be. So we're about to be going upwards, and they're kind of telling you a little bit more of the backstory, and you're about to join me in the very front row for a ride on the rocket rods.
And we're going to have a more extended version.
You're actually going to have 1.5 rides on the rods. You're going to have a ride while there was a lot of construction going on in New Tomorrowland, and that's not included here. And then you're going to have a full front row ride with all the sound. Tomorrow.
We're going to put that up tomorrow.
For the vintage segment, the Saturday vintage segment.
But there's also going to be a Sunday vintage segment that our friend who did give us a lot of this footage, right?
Yeah, but characters climbing the Matterhorn.
Mickey and Goofy, yep, on the Matterhorn. He had put it all together as one, but it didn't seem to kind of go together, Jeff thought. So that will be the video on Sunday. We have really almost unlimited videos at this point.
It's unbelievable, so much. Next week, we're going to have something really special, but we'll wait and talk about that later. We're about to go on rocket rods, and this is kind of like being at a drag race, because you sit here and then you wait for this to turn green, and it just did, and here we go, and you do a wheelie. When it takes off, you do a little bit of a wheelie, and then the thing about this, and it reminds me a lot of Test Track, is every time you come to a turn, it slows down, but when you're inside, like there's Star Tours to the left there, when you're inside, it feels much faster.
And it really does slow down. It's not like, a little bit of a slowdown. It
That was a
really,
mirror effect, so it looked like another rocket rod, but you're just seeing yourself, and it made a very high-pitched sound too. Whenever it accelerated, it would go, and you'll hear that tomorrow. And every time you went around Tomorrowland, you'd hear that sound, and honestly, it got to be a bit annoying after a while.
well, you didn't always hear it because it was often broken down.
Well,
but
that was not a good side effect of that.
I don't know if I ever rode the People Mover at Disneyland. I'm going to say I didn't, but I'm not 100% that I didn't.
Oh, the
So
People Mover at Disneyland was awesome.
I wish I had. I'd love to take pictures. I would love it if now that they could. I would love if now they could put in a People Mover. I know there are challenges because of ADA requirements, but it seems like they could do something to make that happen. And I think it would be wonderful to be able to take a 15-minute ride with these fantastic views. You can see these great views. I saw your finger also, I think, there.
Well, I think the problem is when they put the rocket rods in, it affected the structural integrity of the track. So you can't even put an old People Mover. You would have to somehow fix this track. This track was not built for the high speeds and stopping and starting and the extra weight of the rocket rods.
I think they looked into it, though, because I thought Tony Baxter looked into, that's what I remember,
Right.
Doing that. And you can see you're going to maybe pass the monorail, but maybe not because you're not going that fast.
Well, because you hit a turn, but as soon as you go straight, again, you would hear that loud sound, and then you would take
annoying.
off. So yeah, it was fun, but in a way, I like the People Mover so much, and you can kind of relax and see a lot more. This just went so fast. Before you knew it, it was over, and you didn't really have a chance to see as much stuff, And it wasn't like it was an exciting thrill ride either. It's here it is. We're already all done. So it was kind of an odd mix between a thrill ride and like a relaxing, viewable, sort of like the People Mover. You'd go to relax and just view things.
I love the People Mover at the Magic Kingdom, so I wish it's something. I don't even know. I'm not sure when the People Mover would have closed, but I wasn't going to Disneyland much before. Like I don't remember if I even saw it open, and if I did, it was only probably once or twice.
And I don't know what became of the ride vehicles. I know one of them was sold recently at the That's a Disneyland auction they had a couple of years ago.
Was it to John Stamos? Because he seems like he owns a lot.
Well, Richard Kraft is the one who had it and sold it, so who knows who has it now. And there goes the wheelie, and there it is. So anyway, that is another show.
That is another show. Thanks to our sponsor, MEI Travel and Mouse Fan Travel. Check them out online. They still, they're still posting and they're ready to...
Ready for you, and you're ready for them, and I can't wait to be ready for them.
And I just wanted to say also, I just mentioned John Stamos. If you haven't seen the Disney Family Sing-Along, it's on Disney Plus now, and that is such a terrific show. I think it's better than almost anything that Disney puts out these days. Like, I'm not a big fan of the Christmas specials. The Christmas parade, which isn't really much of a parade.
I like the Donny Osmond segment especially.
That was
a
really
good one.
But
And the Moana one was excellent.
It was such a fantastic show. So I hope they do, more of those things that are produced but not overproduced and over thought out ahead of time. And, it was just really fun to see the various entertainers.
So we're not going to talk about it, but we might just have some great footage of the Mickey Mouse review next week. So we might be showing a little bit of that, which actually we will because I'm fully done editing. So that'll be very exciting, and that'll be our vintage segment for next
Saturday,
week.
Yes.
And what else do you think we're going to be talking about next week?
I have no idea, because we do have a lot of things that I did in California, like... The Jam and Chefs show was really fun, and I wouldn't mind talking about that. There's things that I did that, some things we have video for, some things I have
Tiana's
photos for.
Showboat Jubilee. We'll have a big thing with that once we put that out.
Well, Tiana's Showboat Jubilee is not Disneyland. I just want to mention that was Magic Kingdom 10 years ago.
They had it at Disneyland also, though.
Oh, that's right. That's exactly right, and I totally forgot that. We did see that there. It was a little bit different. But we have video from 10 years ago, and you actually are putting together some extra footage that you hadn't put up yet. And that was such a wonderful show. It coincided. It was to promote Princess and the Frog. And really just one of the better, I think, shows that Disney has had, and
Oh,
it was in
it was
Liberty
wonderful.
Square.
The problem is I have too much footage. I recorded it 6 times, including the final ever time that it showed, and of course all this B-roll of it. So just to decide what is the best footage, a lot of work to do. But we'll get it done, and then we'll also put up the final version of it at some point as well.
And also, I had done a group interview with Dan Lanigan from Prop Culture, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. I'm not supposed to talk about that quite yet. So,
We'll wait for it to debut.
yes, and I cannot wait for everyone to see it because I just think that it's going to be such a popular show with fans.
Yeah, well, it is with me already. I only saw a couple of bits of a couple of episodes, and I can't wait for that to drop. I think we'll be binging.
It would, you know what? I don't want to binge. I don't want to binge. I want to see the
Savor.
Yes, I think like you watch one or two shows and then wait a couple days and maybe watch another show. Like you want to think about it because I almost felt too overwhelmed. You know, did the Muppet Movie, then I watched some of the Mary Poppins, which is terrific. And then I watched little bits of other ones. I'm like, oh, that's a lot of, you know, it's 8 totally different themes, you know. And so I think it's better to do one or two and then wait and just enjoy them, savor them, and and then get back and enjoy them.
So anyway, thanks again for listening. Have a great week, and we'll see you all next week.
Have a great week.